A wildlife crime conviction in the UK, a 150-year-old shark washes up on our shores, Sir David is 100 years old, and new research shows that apes behave more like us than we ever thought. This is the natural world. It's always complex, surprising, and closer to us than we ever thought. I'm Ben Anderson. Welcome to Wild Earth News. Oh, and click subscribe below. Each week, we bring you the biggest stories from our natural world. The breakthroughs, the behaviours, and the warning signs. A little warning, some of the photos in this piece are not that nice. 2 birds of prey, a barn owl and a kestrel, and 50 hares were illegally killed and dumped outside a village shop in Hampshire in 2024. A man was arrested and charged with possession of a dead Schedule 1 bird and possession of a dead non-Schedule 1 wild bird under the Wildlife and Countryside Act of 1981. It's a good one, that one. And last week was convicted of both of these charges. He was found not guilty of the 3rd charge of criminal damage as the evidence was insufficient to place the same man at the scene. Wildlife crime like this has been a long-standing issue all across the UK, and birds of prey have been persecuted for decades. But how on earth is this still happening? We spoke to Dr. Ruth Tingay, co-director of Wild Justice.
With these kinds of offences, I think you have to be quite creative. There isn't really a direct offence of dumping 50 dead hares in front of a shop. You know, you could do them for things like public nuisance, I guess. But criminal damage is fairly serious, and possession of certainly of a Schedule 1 raptor is fairly serious. Maximum sentence, I think, is 6-month custodial, but that's quite unlikely to happen.
What would drive someone to do this kind of crime? You know, is this regular or is this a very rare occurrence?
What got my interest in the case, I'm interested in bird of prey persecution. That's what I look at. And it's quite unusual for when birds of prey have been illegally killed for them to be displayed in that way, the way they were at Broughton. That was definitely some kind of statement of intimidation, I would say. Normally, when birds of prey are killed, their bodies are quickly hidden. You know, they're usually buried or burnt or chucked in a river. So it's quite unusual to see them put on display like that. There have been a lot of advances in technology in the last decade that's helping us see the scale of it. And you can really see the scale of it just by looking at the populations of certain bird species. You know, if you look at species like the hen harrier, red kite, golden eagle in some areas, their distribution is not as it should be. And when you overlay the habitat type where the distribution should be, you can see that there's typically quite a lot of grouse shooting going on, for example. Also instances now that are being caught more routinely because you've got organisations like the RSPB, for example. They have a dedicated investigations team.
It's truly sad to hear that these crimes still happen. It shouldn't, and it is great to hear that convictions occur and that these people are being brought to justice.
He's eating my car. Maybe there's something dead on it.
Now, this is something that you don't see every day. A Greenland shark has washed up on the coast of Ireland in what experts believe is the first recorded stranding of its kind there. The animal, measuring just under 3 meters, was discovered on a beach in County Sligo. And it's not just rare, it's one of the most mysterious creatures on Earth. Greenland sharks live in the deep, cold waters of the Arctic and North Atlantic, far from human view. They're incredibly hard to study because of this and rarely seen alive. And what makes them truly remarkable is their lifespan. Scientists believe they can live for centuries, with some estimates suggesting around 500 years old. That means some could have been alive during the Renaissance. Yeah. The shark had to be removed from the shoreline using heavy equipment due to its size and location, before being taken for scientific examination. Researchers are now studying it to better understand the species, including trying to estimate its age using the structure of its eyes. I spoke to Emily Deluse from the Irish Whale and Dolphin Group.
So right now, a lot of the data has been collected and is being sent out to everyone. As you can imagine, everyone wants a piece of this shark. So we know that it was a male. Sharks have claspers. These are external features around the pelvic fins, and it shows that it's a male shark. They have the claspers, and it was just over 3 meters long. So this gives us a good indication that it was a mature male, as they usually mature around 2.8 meters in length. So that gives us an estimated age of at least 150 years old, maybe a little bit older, as he was just over 3 meters. But that's just reaching sexual maturity. So that was a very, very cool finding there.
They are such a secretive animal. How much do we know about their sort of conservation status at the moment?
So the Greenland shark is listed as vulnerable under the IUCN Red List, which means that it is not doing particularly well. One of the reasons is potentially hunting. The Greenland shark is hunted for its meat. I think it's for a very specialized diet and a very specialized palate. But another reason that these sharks are hunted is actually their liver. And that's just filled with oils like squalene, and that used to be used in industrial as a lubricant, but it also used as to create lights, just as you would have used oil in the street lamps, very similar to how whales were hunted for their blubber and for oil. So that could have depleted their population quite a bit back in the day. And because it can take about 150 years for an adult to become mature, it can take ages before they can recover from such a disruption. And because it's a deep sea species, it can be very difficult for us to understand how changes in its environment can affect it. We don't fully know the depth that climate change, for example, can change the depths. So that could also be having a bigger effect than we're realizing.
This is a truly special animal and a true mystery to a lot of biology. I hope we find out some information from this shark, but I don't want to know everything. I like the fact that mysteries still exist in our natural world.
Hey, Dreamer pooped.
Dreamer pooped, yes. So just
Oh,
give me a
man. You poop? Oh, yeah?
Bonobos are hosting what look like tea parties, and chimpanzees making rational decisions. It's the kind of research that grabs headlines, because it makes animals feel more like us. But there's a growing debate around what this actually tells us. Some scientists argue that setting up human-style scenarios, like pretend tea parties, risks telling us more about us than about them, because these are highly intelligent animals in their own right. They don't need to be placed in human situations to prove it. I spoke to my friend and evolutionary biologist, Professor Ben Garrett, from the University of East Anglia.
Bonobos are one of these animals that are so enigmatic, and they're used again and again and again in different ways, and they enthrall us and they inspire us, and they were the campaign animal behind feminism for a long time. They're enigmatic in their own right, but like chimpanzees, they've been exploited for a long time, and something we thought we'd seen the back of, things like tea parties, are unfortunately coming back into the fold. I mean, you and I, Ben, grew up with this idea that a chimp's tea party is very much something they want to enjoy. They were exploited throughout the 40s, 50s, 60s, because they are very capable of emulating other animals' behavior, including their own and including ours. They were given what's more British than having a cup of tea in the afternoon. So these chimps were taught to use teapots and cups and sip from them and all these things. They don't grow up wanting to have those things, but these are animals that are capable of learning nut cracking, which takes 8 years to learn these refined motor skills. Of course, they can pick a teacup up and grab it and do a swig. It's a way to make them look amusing. It's a way to make them more like us, which is the last thing we need these amazing animals to be, really.
Without wanting to get you in trouble, why on earth are these scientists doing these tea party and, I use the word loosely, experiments with these animals? What are they doing? What is the purpose?
I'm trying to be as diplomatic as I can, but I think part of the reason might be to show ability to learn complex, multifactorial, multi-tiered tasks. That's arguably fine. I think we, as academics, as researchers, as scientists, have an obligation to move forwards always with the work that we're doing and the way we're representing our animals, our habitats, and our relationship with the natural world. To do something that's always been seen as exploitative and negative, I think is a really unusual call, a really tough thing to justify right now. The ultimate thing with animals in terms of understanding their intelligence is to make things as naturalistic as possible. So what can we do to test their ability to learn, to pass on social learning and cultural transmission? For me, it wouldn't be doing a tea party. It just wouldn't. I mean, I'm sure there's good meaning behind this. I would always question to how it gets out in the news, why it's the news, how it's been turned into media, and to what ends. And if it's exploitative in any way, it should be removed and stopped instantly.
Understanding animal intelligence might not be about making them more like us, but recognising how different and equally complex they already are. Hi! Today marks a remarkable milestone. Sir David Attenborough turns 100. A broadcaster whose career has spanned more than 7 decades and helped shape television as we know it. But it wasn't just high-end natural history for Sir David. He was instrumental in bringing colour television to the UK, even commissioning programmes like Pot Black in 1969 to showcase it. But of course, it's his work within the natural world that defines him. From life on Earth through to planet Earth and beyond, he hasn't just documented nature, he's changed how we see it, and crucially, how we value it. Across the country, organisations are marking the moment. Wildlife trusts are hosting talks, screenings and community events. Broadcasters are resharing some of his most iconic moments. And conservation groups are using the day to highlight the causes he's spent a lifetime championing. At Stratford-upon-Avon, Clive Farrell and his team are releasing butterflies in celebration.
We've bred 100 blue morpho butterflies, especially at my farm in Belize. And we've calibrated the emergence so that we can release them on the actual day of his birthday. We've got 2 school parties coming in to join the fun, and some of the local dignitaries. And at a given signal, the whole lot will be released into the main flight area.
What has Sir David done for Lepidoptera as a whole throughout your career and his career?
Well, I wouldn't be sitting here today if it wasn't for him, because in 1983, many years ago, I had the notion of building a humongous tropical greenhouse and filling it up with butterflies and sharing my hobby, my passions with visitors. I spent far too much, nearly bankrupted me, and we weren't getting enough visitors to start with because nobody knew about it. And then Sir David pitched up and decided he wanted to make a program about the butterfly house. Now, the day after the film was shown, there were queues all the way down the path of Syon Park, and we never looked back. He primed the pump. It led on to 4 more butterfly exhibitions that I built in Britain, including the one in Stratford-upon-Avon. And then finally, urged on by Sir David, I built a butterfly breeding farm in the rainforests of Belize. He told me that ultimately conservation has to pay. And by providing a livelihood for local people, breeding butterflies, and then importing them into Britain, we could keep 11 local families going and provide a meaning for them.
What makes you nervous for the next 100 years of conservation?
It's the destruction of their habitats. Virtually all the tropical butterflies that we exhibit come from different rainforests in different parts of the world, and they're being eaten away in huge numbers. And once you lose the rainforests, you lose not just the butterflies that depend on them, but the birds and all the other creatures. So I think we've got to inspire children, young people, to care about these things and to lobby their parents and their MPs and anybody else who will listen about how precious these places are.
A century of life and a legacy that will last far beyond it. He inspired millions of people to care about the big and the small, but also to understand that they all play a role. He inspired me, and I hope will inspire many millions more. Cheers, Sir David, and happy birthday.
Saskia.
Now to one of the world's strangest and most vulnerable animals, the axolotl. A critically endangered amphibian native to Mexico, but found somewhere you would never believe, under a bridge in Wales. The animal was discovered by a young girl in what experts believe is an extremely rare, possibly first of its kind find in the UK. Axolotls are famous for their ability to regenerate limbs, organs, or even parts of their brain. But in the wild, they are on the brink of extinction, with only small populations remaining in their natural habitat. But they have become popular pets, which makes this discovery both remarkable and concerning. What is wrong with people? Why are we dumping animals like axolotls in lakes and rivers in the UK? If you don't want your axolotl as a pet, speak to an organisation like the RSPCA or similar. Don't just chuck it in a river in Wales. Just don't do it. And finally, the competition that everyone should be talking about. It sounds ridiculous, but it is taken surprisingly seriously. The European Seagull Screeching Championship. Held in Belgium, competitors from across the continent gather to mimic the calls and behaviour of seagulls. They're judged not only on the sound, but on performance too. Everything from timing and rhythm to how convincingly they act like the bird itself. Some even go as far as dressing the part. The aim is to change how people see our gull species, not just seagulls, gulls. Birds often labelled as pests, which play an important role in coastal ecosystems. Whether it will actually change public perception, who knows? But there's one thing for certain. You'll never hear a seagull the same way again. Chip stealing. What a fortnight! From crime and conservation to deep sea mysteries and animal mimicking competitions that if you close your eyes, you think you were there. Nature is always surprising, and if you want more, subscribe below for your regular wildlife briefing. I'm Ben Anderson, and a wildlife is out there. Go get it.